storm. We are in at this moment a perfect storm, and perfect is normally positive, but in this case it's not positive. And why are we in a perfect storm? Look, you already addressed this. We are confronted with increasing raw material and energy prices that for basic industry, basic chemistry is crucial. And don't forget, natural gas is for us not an energy source, it's a raw material. So increasing prices also before the Ukraine war, but reinforced by the war. Second topic is the legislation. Legislation that is in Europe very intense, certainly also in comparison with other regions. I'm not telling that in Asia, in America, in the Middle East, there is no legislation for environment. There's no environmental legislation. That's not my case. But in Europe, we want to be forerunner, and there you have to find the right balance between being forerunner in sustainability or in green, and at the same time take care that your industry remains competitive. And there we have an issue. And this picture looks very, there's a puzzle, and the puzzle perfectly fits. But reality is also not the case, because we are confronted with conflicting targets, as already addressed. Targets concerning production of renewable energy, but then hindered by nitrogen, by biodiversity, and so on. So the picture in reality is not that consistent as you would expect, and what we in fact need. And consistent legislation is not there at the moment. Third point is the demand in the market worldwide, not only in Europe, is very low at the moment. We are confronted with, now already, I never experienced this in my professional career, more than 1.5 years that our capacity utilization is very, very low. So that long, never experienced, and that deep, never experienced. And that's the situation we're in. And not only at BASF, it's for the entire chemical industry the case. And where my heart then as chemists bleeding is that in these circumstances, I'm convinced in Europe we have the most efficient plants concerning energy consumption, concerning raw material consumption. Nevertheless, we are confronted with import because we are not able to produce in a competitive manner. Products out of Middle East, Asia, North and South America are entering Europe because it's cheaper to import them than to produce them in Europe. And it's based on, of course, also the price of legislation and the price of our raw materials and energy, not based on our efficiency. But that's reality, meaning that we produce less than the market demand because there is import from other regions. So that's the perfect storm. And then you would say, Jan, so this is game over? No, it's not game over. At the same time, we are working on the transformation, on our journey towards net zero, towards a circular chemistry. And we have already great examples in practice. For instance, BASF, looking at our energy sourcing, the scope 2 emissions, the CO2 footprint of your energy. There we clearly go in the direction of zero. And for instance, how do we this? We do this with a make and buy strategy. On the one hand, PPAs, power purchase agreements. On the other hand, we also invest. We make in wind farms. And here behind me, you see Hollandse Kust Zuid, Dutch Coast South. It's the biggest non-subsidized wind farm in the world. It's now almost 100% operational, and it will provide BASF Antwerp as of next year with 100% renewable energy. So our CO2 footprint of our electrical power will be zero next year. Now we are almost at 75%. And in that way, our CO2 footprint concerning scope 2 is reduced by 1 million tons a year. Already mentioned, carbon capture and storage, flagship project in Europe. So we should be proud. Also clustering of forces. It's not only BASF, it's together with Air Liquide, it's together with INEOS, Borealis, Total Energies ExxonMobil. So using the critical mass that we have in the port of Antwerp, Bruges, to make a cost-competitive CCS chain from the production towards the sink. But it's not the only thing we are working on. We are working on an e-boiler. So we need the production of steam. Now we do it with natural gas. We will build a pilot plant at this moment in Antwerp with an e-boiler to produce steam with electrical power. We are working on an e-furnace. E-furnace in the steam cracker, where we need, at the beginning of the process, lots of energies to crack the molecules, to crack the raw materials. We are now building a pilot in Ludwigshafen to make use of electrical power instead of natural gas. We are working on heat pumps together with Siemens. So really industrial scale heat pumps. So you see, we're working on many things to reduce our footprint. But at the same time, you hear e-boiler, e-furnace, electrical power. We also will need infrastructure. And there is also the role for the authorities to make it happen, that permits can be provided for those production of renewable power. And also, of course, reinforcing the grid. Already mentioned by Jacot, rich circular economy, plastic waste. It will be a raw material. And also there we are working on, not only with plastic waste, but also on, for instance, old tires, besides chemical recycling, that we make use of chemical recycling, that from this plastic waste we make the raw material for our steam cracker, for instance, avoiding that we have to buy fossil raw materials. And it will also help us to make us less dependent from other regions for sourcing raw materials, because we have the raw materials. It's plastic waste. And that's why I say the word waste, we should scrap and talk about raw materials. These are our new raw materials, but also there, chemical recycling, mass balancing has to be accepted by the European legislation, which at this moment is not the case and hindering this innovative development. And that's my main message also because I talked a lot about legislation. The EU policy has to be sustainable, and sustainable has three pillars: environment, social, economical. And the Green Deal is for me on the left side. It's what we are going to do for the environment. But what we miss in Europe is to have a real sustainable legislation completed with what is now our industry policy, the economical part. What is now the industry policy? Which industry do we want and support in Europe? And of course, everybody is talking about innovative developments, and of course, that we have to support. But don't forget, you also need your basic industry, providing the raw materials for your innovative companies. The chemical industry sometimes is called the industry of the industries because we supply raw materials for every sector: automotive, construction, pharmaceuticals, nutrition, health. Those raw materials come from the chemical industry, and it's important to have production in Europe, looking also on your geographical or geostrategical independence. And also don't forget the social part, because life will be more expensive, not only with European products, but also the imported products. Life will be more expensive. And that's what politicians often don't tell to the people. This transition will make life more expensive, looking at poverty and so on. You also have you need to develop the right social policy to have a true sustainable policy in Europe. Also another topic. Europe has also one thing that should stop, and that is not only, but should not stop, is describing what we want to do, but Europe has a strong tendency also to tell how you have to do it. And for me, a good example, or a bad, is green hydrogen. Target by 2030, 42% green hydrogen. This is not technology neutral. The target could better be by 2030, 42% reduction of the carbon, the CO2 footprint of your hydrogen. And then we can make the transition and everybody will be happy, producers, consumers. This is clear. This stimulates entrepreneurship. This stimulates innovativeness. And now, by forcing us towards green hydrogen, that won't run. So we need more the carrot instead of the stick approach. The carrot approach that we see, for instance, in the US with the Inflation Reduction Act. But I want to end in a positive manner. I will skip this. Yeah, it's not a cake, but it was illustrating that in the world, the friend of today can be the enemy of tomorrow. So take care of your geostrategical independence. Nevertheless, this is a view on our side, and indeed, Wim, as you mentioned, our ambition is very clear, and we are developing the projects towards net zero, towards circular, but we need the right boundary conditions. We don't have tailwind from the market, because this transition will cost money. We don't have tailwind from the market, but unfortunately, we also don't have tailwind from the legislation that should be more supportive, should be more setting the targets, but not telling us how to do it.